Hello, everyone. Welcome to the VS Code live stream. My name is Olivia, and I am an advocate on the VS Code team, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today. I see there's already a lot of chatter going on. So chat, let me know where you're watching from. I see we already have a lot from California, Chicago, Dallas, kind of all over the place. Let me know where else you're watching from. And kind of like let's get warmed up in the chat, because these live streams are all about being interactive. We love hearing your questions, your comments, all that good stuff. So make sure that you're dropping comments all throughout in your questions, and we'll get them answered as we can. Today is a very special live stream that I'm really excited for, because it is our worldwide virtual edition of VS Code Dev Days. I assume probably your first question is, what are VS Code Dev Days? So if we take a look at my screen real quick, VS Code Dev Days are a global series of community events that are focused all around skilling up on GitHub Copilot and VS Code. So they're happening all over the world this month in person. And this is a really cool thing, because it's a chance for us all to connect with our community. If you scroll down through this map here, you can see all the different places these are happening. We're about halfway through our events. There's still 40 more to come. So I definitely encourage you to see if there are some coming up in a city near you, and attend them, because it's a great chance to connect with your local community and just learn together. And I think that that's a really cool thing that we could all use a little bit more of. But that being said, obviously we have people from all over the world, not just in these cities and in these countries. So with that, we wanted to make sure that we were doing also a virtual edition, so that way we could all connect and skill up together and have this chance to get that great stuff from VS Code Dev Days, but virtually, and have that connection there. So with that, quick agenda for today. We're going to kick off by talking about what is VS Code as the open source AI editor. And we're also going to dive into some best tips and tricks for how you can get the most out of GitHub Copilot. So whether you are just getting started with GitHub Copilot and you don't know what it is, or you are someone who wants to make the most out of it, there's something for everyone in today's session. With that, it's not just going to be me talking the whole time, because you're going to get sick of my voice. So we have a very special guest today. We have Alfredo Deza coming on. So let's bring him on. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Thank you
Good.
so much for having me here.
Oh my gosh, of course. Yeah, you're definitely no stranger to the VS Code channel. But for people who maybe this is their first time seeing you on this stream or on our channel, could you do a quick intro of yourself?
Yes. So I work rather closely with Olivia in the advocacy team. What is it that we do? Well, we explain things. That's kind of like the one sentence that describes what we do. We explain how things work. Of course, depending on the areas of interest, I do a little bit of everything. I like programming languages. I have experience in Python and Rust and building APIs and automation. And yeah, I've been here in this team for a little bit. And today I'm very excited to talk a little bit more about Visual Studio Code and GitHub Copilot, but that will come later on.
I love that very concise explanation of what we do. We explain things. So chat, tell us at the end of this if we did a good job. But we will be explaining things very well for you today. Okay, so then should we go ahead and dive into some demos? I'm going to go ahead and kick us off from our side just to talk about what is GitHub Copilot. At this point, you may have heard of it. I actually would love in the chat if y'all could let me know, have you used GitHub Copilot? Are you curious about GitHub Copilot? Do you have no idea what GitHub Copilot is? Just to kind of get the bearings here. So that way, we can kind of tailor this to your level. But just a really quick overview of what GitHub Copilot is it is your AI peer programmer. And it's designed to help you code better and faster. And specifically so that you can focus on things that you'd rather spend your energy on. So things like really cool problem solving. And then you can have Copilot help you with things that maybe you slow you down a little bit, like documentation or adding tests or things like that, just to kind of have an extra tool in your toolkit. And with that, and Alfredo, I know we've talked about this a lot. One like disclaimer I always like to say about GitHub Copilot and just AI coding in assistance in general. A lot of times there can be kind of anxiety around either, Copilot's going to write all my code and we don't need software developers, or I'm a software developer and I don't need to know code. I'm just going to get Copilot to do it all for me. And that's my whole job. And I just think, the more you use this tool, the more you realize that it is just that, it's a tool. And it's emphasis on Copilot, the code part. You are still the pilot. You are still in control. You will always need to review the code. You will always need to understand the code and be able to have that problem solving and be that human in the loop. And so again, just kind of the disclaimer of how to think about Copilot as just another tool in your kit to help you when you are coding. Yeah, Alfredo, any thoughts there on that?
I think you're exactly right. And I think what I tell my kids is like extremes are all terrible. Like just don't do it. So because one day it's like, oh, but that. So do you mean that water can be bad for you? It's like, well, if you drink 4 buckets of water, it's going to cause some problems. So you better not, don't exaggerate on things. So, and I think what you're saying is kind of similar in the sense of like, well, no, I'm not gonna check on anything that whatever AI tooling is that I'm using is going to generate, and I'm just going to click accept, ship it, put it on production, and then I'm gonna say I'm done. And well, not exactly. But the other side of that is also like, no, I'm not gonna use any code assistance tool or an IDE or anything that has autocomplete or no intelligence in the code base that I'm going to use. It's like, well, do you want to write your code in a piece of paper? I mean, that's also going to be, rough. So I think the middle ground, and especially verifying things and making sure that things are correct, I think that's the sweet spot. And it's regular general best practice in software engineering, right? Like you're pairing with someone else. Like say, for example, you and I were working on the same team, and I might be putting a pull request out, and you're going to be like, oh, let's see what Alfredo did. And you might be catching something that I forgot about, or I'm not doing quite correctly. And I think that's the ticket.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're right about, not thinking in absolutes in extremes one way or the other. And, to the point of making sure you're reviewing and you're understanding it. It's kind of like, pre-AI coding, people were going to Stack Overflow and they'd copy code over. You shouldn't have just copied and not looked like that. That was, I'm not saying I never did that, but certainly any code that you would get before, like it was kind of the same thing, right? You would want to make sure it was applicable. You would want to review it, make sure it was scalable, things like that. And this is just, right, we're bringing those coding assistants into our flow and into our editor and just making sure that we understand it and that we are still in control. So thank you so much, Alfredo, for that insight. And always just a great disclaimer there as well for how to kind of think about and conceptualize how Copilot fits into your flow. Okay, so I see in the comments there's kind of a range. There's quite a bit of people saying you've either never used Copilot or you've been curious about it, or you just have no experience at all. So that's great. I love to see that. And I'm going to start kind of at like what that day 0 experience would look like in VS Code. So if you were to do a quick, fresh install of VS Code, you would get this handy little walkthrough. And the first thing it kind of asks you is to use AI features with Copilot for free. And so you could either hit set up Copilot. If you don't have this walkthrough open, there is also a Copilot icon in the bottom right status bar that you can hit set up Copilot as well. So I'm going to go through that process, and it's very, very quick and easy. So you do need a GitHub account, or you can actually use Google as well. I haven't used this sign-in option as well, but I think that that's just kind of integrated with your GitHub account. Would love to know if people have used that. But I'm going to go ahead with my GitHub account, and in my browser off screen, it's authenticating me, and we're authenticated. And then you'll see a little pop-up saying the extension GitHub Copilot chat wants to sign in using GitHub. So as I mentioned, the AI features in VS Code are powered by GitHub Copilot, and it actually lives in this extension GitHub Copilot chat. So I'm going to allow my account to have access there. Just do one more little off flow, and then I think we are all set there. So again, I already had a GitHub account, and just in my other screen, it was authenticating me. And that's it. With your GitHub account, you get Copilot for free. It is a free tier. There's some limitations. There's, I believe it's 50 requests and 2,000 completions. So, but with that, you can literally just get started with Copilot right away. So you can either continue going through this walkthrough. You can take a look at what opened over here. So we have this nice chat view, which I will go into detail in just a bit. But I want to kind of break this down in a way that helps me understand it, because I think it can be a little overwhelming when you see all these new AI features that exist. So what I like to kind of break it down into with AI features, if you're just getting started in VS Code, is two sections. One is completions and one is chat. So I'm going to start with completions because that might be a little bit more familiar to folks. And completions are essentially the ghost text that you may already associate with GitHub Copilot. It was kind of like the original Copilot experience. And one way you can kind of think about this is, if you're ever typing in Word or in Google Docs or in Gmail or anything, and you see it suggest to complete your sentence, it's kind of the same thing with completions. It's going to suggest to complete your code. And so I'm just going to do like a really quick example here. Like if we just do a function to add, you can see this ghost text. Let me actually zoom just a little bit so it's a little clearer. You can see this ghost text that automatically added as I was typing. So I can hit tab to accept that, and then we can actually see it completely essentially guess what I was going to do, predict what I was going to do based off what I was already typing. So this is super handy for generating new code. It can basically take, kind of like reading your mind, right? You start typing about, okay, what method you want to write about, or a variable you want to do, and it will anticipate what that code should look like. So
I wanted to say this. One of the neat things, and I think Copilot, when it first started out, it's like it made me laugh. Like I think it's the first time I've used something to develop code that has made me laugh out loud. Is because it's like, how does it know? Like what kind of like magic is doing that it understands that this is exactly what I want? So one tiny thing that I wanted to add here is that Olivia started typing function and then add. And if you think about it, like once you start having descriptive names for what is it that you're actually going to do, like a function in this case, the large language model behind the scenes is like, I wonder, what could possibly be the arguments? And of course, it's trying to do a little bit of a guesswork, but tied to that thing that you're typing already. So that's what makes it useful. Because if you say function whatever, it will be like how, like, it doesn't really know. But add, maybe it will require two arguments, right? So that's how that magic happens, and you can always tweak it later, as Olivia is showing.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out there. And again, I think this kind of goes back to the fact that like you're still in control. So it's still important to have those development best practices to make sure you're naming things, and then you can get the most out of Copilot. Because to your point, Alfredo, if I was just like writing some random thing,
Yeah,
it probably would suggest something, but it probably wouldn't be what I want because I
right.
didn't name it correctly. It couldn't tell my intent. So if you make your intent clear and you give correct context, that's when you're really going to get the most out of Copilot. So yeah, great call out there. Another piece of the completions experience. So that was, kind of showing basic, you're getting started with generating code. You, a lot of times though, are editing code. You're not just generating new code. So again, we're talking about intent. Let's say, oh, for some reason I made this an add function, but really I want it to be subtract. So what I would then do is go ahead and rename that, change my intent. And what you see here is another feature of our completions experience called next edit suggestions, where it doesn't just predict code to add, it predicts the next edit that you would make. So again, it took what I was doing. It said, oh, you renamed this to subtract. I bet what you're going to want to do is subtract these numbers instead of add them. And so with this, you can either hover over the gutter icon to look at the controls you can do this next edit suggestion. And then you can also just simply tab to accept that suggestion. So these are the two main features of our completions experience that are really, really handy. Again, if you're writing code and either you're getting started or you're trying to refactor code, it makes it so handy to have that just in your flow and to have it, reading your mind as you go along. So that's completions. Let me know if anyone has any specific questions about completions. But in the meantime, I'm going to switch over to kind of that second piece, which is where I spend a lot of my time, which is chat. So to open chat, you can always hit the sparkle chat icon in your command center at the top of VS Code. And then this will open a chat view. So I'm just going to close this out because we don't really need that anymore. And I want to go ahead and just do a quick tour of what this looks like, because again, this can be a little overwhelming if you're not exactly sure what's going on. So there are two main drop downs here. One is the model drop down. And this is going to show all the different models that are available to your plan. So again, I'm on an account that has Copilot free. There's a certain subset of models that are available to free, and then up to pro and business and enterprise. There are different models available. So if you're signed into GitHub Copilot right now and you see a little bit different list, you probably are on a different plan. But with that, you can see these different models available. I can switch to whichever one I think will be best for my given task. And then you also see these multipliers over on the right side. And you'll see all of these are 1x. What these multipliers are is essentially it's tracking what a request will charge against your quota. So if you remember earlier, I mentioned that you get 50 chat requests included with Copilot free. So essentially what this 1x is saying is that every request I send with one of these models is going to take away one of my requests from my quota. So that's what that's going to be saying. A lot of questions we get are, okay, well, how am I going to know where I'm at in my quota? You can go down to your Copilot status icon in the bottom status bar, and you can track what your usage is looking like. So you can kind of see that percentage of, oh, I'm getting close to meeting my quota, or I still got plenty to go. So just a little bit on quotas there and on models. And then one other thing I want to cover with models, Alfredo, I don't know if you've seen this because this was new, just this past release, is auto model selection. So we have this auto here at the top. That's an option.
I think that's interesting. One of the main questions, or one of the repetitive questions, like, okay, so what model do you want me to use?
Yes.
Like I'm going to write some tests. What's the right model, Olivia, for tests? Like, well, sometimes that's tricky, because have you seen the list that Olivia pulled out? Like, that's a lot of models, and they keep changing all the time. So like this week is this, like next week we're going to have something else. So I think that auto mode, I think it solves several problems.
It does. Yes. To Alfredo's point, I honestly think models is one of the like most intimidating parts of getting started with AI. If you like don't know what's happening, because you hear all these different names and you see this long list, and honestly, compared to some other lists, like if you have Pro or Pro Plus, you get a lot of models. Like this list can get out of hand if you don't manage it, and it can be really intimidating to figure out which one should I try out. And you hear a lot of different opinions on it as well too, which one it is. And honestly, my advice there is try it out for your workflow. See which one gives you the best responses.
That's exactly what I say too.
Right. Yeah.
Just try it out.
Everyone's going to have different styles. Everyone's going to, some people like it to be more verbose. Some people like it to get to the point. And some, different coding flows are going to be a little bit better for different models. And so it's very dependent on what your workflow looks like. So just try it out, see what that looks like. But as Alfredo said, Auto is a really, really cool addition here. So essentially what Auto does is it will auto route your request to an optimized model. Right now, what optimized model means is based off of capacity and performance. So it will be mostly optimized to make sure you're not hitting rate limits. So that way you're not getting those nasty, oh no, try again in 118 seconds or whatever. And so you're actually getting responses. So right now that's how it's optimized. On the roadmap though, is to also optimize for your actual prompt and for your task. And I think that that's going to be so powerful when it's there, because again, it kind of takes out that guesswork of, what should I be doing? Is this the right one? And it kind of, especially if you're getting started, I think that this is a really, really powerful way to kind of take that extra overhead of figuring out what model to do out of your hands. But with that, you can still always pick a different model as well too. If you're like, I love Claude, don't take Claude from me, just go to Claude. So again, totally your preference. Okay, so that's the model picker. We have this other picker here that is the mode dropdown. So you'll see 3 modes here: agent, ask, and edit. And I kind of want to go one by one for each of these, starting with, we'll start with ask, because we're going to go in the order of lowest autonomy that Copilot has to the most autonomy that Copilot has. So ask mode is essentially what it sounds like. This is when you just would ask questions, have a conversation. Copilot will not write any code for you, won't be running terminal commands for you, will just return a response to your question. It's, when you think about like ChatGPT at the very beginning, which is like, okay, you're having that conversation, you're bringing it in. That was kind of like the very first essence of what chat is. Let's just be able to ask an AI expert about, whatever questions I have. Next is edit. So this gives Copilot a bit more autonomy because it can now edit files. So you send a prompt and it can start making edits on your behalf. And then building off of that is agent mode, which is the most autonomous option. I love agent mode, highly recommend it, but it's also something that, if you're brand new to AI, it might take you back a little bit at first just because of all that it can do. It's really, really cool. So what it can do, it builds off of edits in the sense that it can edit files across your project. It can execute tasks and run terminal commands for you. And it gives you access to so many different tools. So you'll see we got this configure tools icon in the dropdown now. There's a lot of built-in tools like things to fetch URLs. And then also, we're not going to really cover MCP in this session just because that gets into a little bit more detail. But if you use MCP, you've heard of MCP, tools also get contributed by MCP servers. So this is how you can bring in the power of MCP to essentially just get more and more context into your flow to get a really, really great autonomous agentic experience in chat to help iterate over your code. It fixes its own errors. It's a very, very cool thing. So let me go ahead and let's actually see this in action. So that way we can kind of understand the differences in these modes a little bit more. So again, I'm going to start with ask. I do have this app open. That's essentially just, let's open this back up, a meal plan app for my kid because I don't like coming up with meal ideas every single week. So I have AI do it. But with that, it's fairly bare bones. It's, just suggests meals and then gives recipes for it. So if we start with ask mode, I'm going to go ahead and just say, let's do add test for the recipe functionality. And got a little prompt there. So if I send that to ask, let's see what it returns back for me. We're just going to rerun without that workspaces. Sorry, I should have paused on that a little more. Sometimes you'll find that when certain models will run with certain contexts or certain tools, and you don't necessarily need that. So I should have paused a little bit more. I said rerun without it because I didn't need it to run with my workspace. I just kind of wanted to give me a test file back. Okay, so again, we're in ask mode. Nothing's been edited. It basically just returns code for me right here. I could copy this into my editor. It just gives me a response here. And then it tells me also how I can run and set up my project to have these tests incorporated. So with that, again, didn't do anything to my code, just answered my prompt, gave me a response back. Now, if we move to edit, and you'll see a little pop-up saying, changing this mode will end your current edit session. Say, yep. And then we run that same functionality. Oh, it says, yep. Okay, so essentially, this is a great demo because edit does not have kind of access to those tools inherently. You have to be very clear about what context you want to give it. So Copilot's like, oh, can you give me the context that you want me to do for this functionality? So I'm going to add the code base tool, which will essentially say, oh, read my code, and then add the test. So I'll do that now. Okay. And so now we can see edits is doing that next step that ask wasn't doing. Not only is it trying to figure out what I can do, but it's actually going in and creating these files, and it's making edits to my code. But you'll kind of see after making these changes, it just says, run your test. It doesn't run them for me. It doesn't really do anything else. Now I'm going to just undo those changes while I go into agent mode so we can see, again, that final difference. So I'm going to say add tests for the recipe functionality. And let's see what we get out of this. It looks like we're getting a good plan here of what to do. Okay, so we've already, you can see already, there's a lot more happening with agent mode. We've got all this automatic searching that's happening to figure out what the recipes are. It's reading our files. I didn't have to really include anything. It just automatically called those read tools. And then it's giving us a whole plan of what to do. And now it's making these edits to our file as well. So if we scroll down, we see that it's made these edits. This is the really big change with agent mode. So now it's saying, okay, what's your next step to run the test? But it's not just saying go run it. It's saying, okay, let's start the development server. Let's actually run those tasks. And so with this, you're getting okay, here's the actual next step. Here's truly more autonomy to Copilot to be able to run this code and get you up and running it and to just have more of that. So now from here, I can just hit allow. I can keep going through this. And we can just kind of go through here and go through the whole iteration. I won't go through all of this to get it implemented because I'm just trying to illustrate the differences between ask, edit, and agent. But again, you'll see it will just kind of keep giving these different tools to run commands and get to where we need to go, all in the same session. I'm still in control, right? We have the ability to still approve these terminal commands. But it's a really nice experience to just kind of keep you in the flow, keep you going, and really get you the full-fledged experience of what you're asking for in your prompt. So that's a just very quick overview of all of the differences between ask, edit, and agent. Okay, I'm going to pause for a little bit because I want to see what questions we have. Scott, I see that you have asked where can you get the code that I'm using. I will publish that after this so you can see how I'm trying to feed my child to come up with different things to eat. So I'll publish that. Let's see, what else do we have? I see Sabrina, you say you just always use agent mode. That's usually my go-to. Alfredo, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but kind of my general flow is sometimes I'll start with ask and I'll do like more of a plan, like kind of think, okay, what are the different, what's the different tech stack I should use for this? Like, let's talk through like these application things. And then once I kind of have that plan, then I'll switch over to agent mode and do more of the implementation.
Yeah, one of the things that for me in the past, not now with these modes, that was very annoying is that whenever I wanted to like get some ideas or try to figure out different approaches or different paths to, like, say, for example, I want to implement logging. Logging has 20 different ways that you can implement it, and I'm like, okay, so I have this project, so I start my prompt, right? Like I have this project, I want to implement logging, and I want to do all of these things. These are my concerns, and this is kind of like where I want to go, and then by the end I will have this, like, I have to add, please do not suggest me any code. I don't want code. I'm kind of like exploring what are my options. You just give me the options, give me what you think. Sure, read my files, figure out my project over here, but please do not generate. I don't need code generation, because by default, in the past, these models would just go like, oh, okay, so you want logging, here you go, like the universe of logging everywhere. All of the files have logging. It's like, no, why are you doing this? This is not what I wanted. I'm just trying to figure out what is it that I want. I'm not entirely sure. And this feature allows you to kind of like, well, I'm in exploratory mode, right? Like if you're a data engineer, or if you've ever dealt with data, you're like, let's take a look, what's going on here? Like, let's, explore. Let's see what these things are. You're not manipulating, changing, deleting, adding anything. And I think that's very useful. And sure, like when you're very sure exactly what you're doing and kind of like, oh, well, I'm comfortable. This is my project. I know exactly what I need. Agent mode definitely helps you get to where you want to be faster.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And I think, again, that goes back to kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. It's just, this doesn't negate all the development skills that we have learned before and,
right.
and needing to know. It's just a tool to get us there faster. But you have to know where you're going in order to get there faster, or else you might get somewhere faster, but it might not be where you want to get to. So I think that, that's really important to remember. Okay. I'll do a couple more questions here. I see there's a question about what allows Copilot to pick up your code from the code base. Is the project open? So essentially, Copilot gets access to whatever context you have given it. So generally, that's sometimes you explicitly say, okay, in the code base. Sometimes, in general, you can kind of think of it as the project that you have open. But you don't need, the code doesn't need to be published on GitHub for it to be there. You can just be working on local code. And if you're using Copilot with that and interfacing with it, Copilot will have access to that. So again, using it with vscode is super helpful because you can see what context it has. You can scope what context it has as well. Like if you don't want it to be reading certain files and things like that, you can scope it as well. So context in general is a very big topic with Copilot. But short answer to your question is whatever code you're using with it, it doesn't have to be open, doesn't have to be on GitHub. It can just be the code in your editor, and Copilot will be able to pick that up. If you ever find that it's not, getting the right code in your project, you can always explicitly mention a file and add it as context to make sure that you're really scoping into that.
Context is crucial with
Yes.
all of these models and all of these AI tools. Without context is, these models don't, they're not visionaries and understand your mind from where you're at. But I mean, all of it, including the initial demo that Olivia did in the beginning, where she started typing, and then we saw like the suggestion pop out. That comes from context. Olivia is typing something out, and then that's the context. That is exactly what the model's like. Oh, okay, so this is what's going on. What might be the potential intent here? Oh, to do an addition or a subtraction. And then it shows you that. Without context, and most importantly, without the right context, your suggestions are not going to be working as good as if you have exactly what you need. So if you're working on tests, well, how about you have those files open at the very least, right? Not have, I don't know, like the HTML or something else that is not related to tests, but where the model is telling me like, I don't know what's going on here, right? And it will lead to the model or to the tool to give you the suggestions that are not amazing.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, and Alfredo's going to touch on this a lot in his demo too, which is, tips for getting that context. Again, Copilot's a tool, and learning how to properly use a tool is true for any tool. And Copilot falls into that as well, right? So knowing the tips and tricks to get the most out of it is very, very crucial, as Alfredo was saying, to get that response. I think it can be really easy to just give up and be like, wow, this sucks. It's, I'm getting the worst responses. This isn't helping at all. It's like, okay, there are tips to kind of take a step back and make sure that you are giving that right context, as Alfredo said. Okay, see, there are a couple other questions that I'll touch on before doing just one more little item, and then we'll move over to Alfredo, because I think y'all are really going to like what he has to demo. I've seen there's a couple questions about using models locally. So let me actually just go ahead and let's just start all this over so we can see what's going on here. So if we look at, the model picker, you'll see something that says manage models. And from here, you'll actually see a bunch of different model providers. So this is a feature called Bring Your Own Key. It's currently available with individual plans. It allows you to, though, bring your keys from other models or run local models. So you can then add that into your model picker. We did a little bit of talking about that in our release live stream last week. So go ahead and make sure to check the catch up of that. And that way you kind of learn a little bit more about that. But to answer your question, yes, you can run models locally. There's a way to do that. It's really cool. All the model choice is very much at the forefront of VS Code's thought process for AI development. We want to make sure that however you want to use your models, whether locally or with a different provider, that we give you those options and ability to get there.
I had no idea about this, by the way.
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah, these are such good questions because there's so much to unpack when you really kind of go through this. And I feel like we could, like Alfredo, I feel like we could literally talk for like 8 hours today. We're not going to because we have other things to do, but we really could just go on and on and on. Okay, so one other thing I want to do before, again, we kind of move over to Alfredo's demo, where he'll dive a little bit deeper into this and talk about best practices. Is I want to talk a bit about what I mentioned at the start about VS Code being the open source AI editor. So we kind of saw these AI features here that make it an AI editor. But I want to talk about the open source part just a little bit. If you don't know, VS Code itself has been an open source editor essentially since it came about. And so with that, you can contribute. This is the VS Code repo here, right? It's all open on GitHub. You can see all the source code for the core editor experience. You can contribute to it. You can file issues. You can fork it. You can, it's just been open. That developing in the open is very much, and having transparency is very much a core tenet of the VS Code team's engineering philosophy. So the editor itself has been open. However, as we saw, the AI features come through the GitHub Copilot chat extension. Up until this past spring, that extension was closed source, so you wouldn't be able to see what was actually going on. But in June, I believe the team open sourced that as well. So there's now a VS Code Copilot chat repo that is open. And this is very cool because you get the same kind of benefits I just mentioned, you can view all the implementation. You can add to it, build upon it, you can contribute to it. And you can see just all the really cool implementation details like system prompts or how does agent mode actually work. So I just wanted to do a quick plug for that. If you're someone who's really curious about what goes on under the hood, you can see it. It's open now. And we love getting issues. So file feedback, let us know what you want to see. And then we also love having contributors. So make sure to contribute if you would like to. And then one other thing I want to just touch on with the cool part of this being open is, in our code, then you can also see what telemetry, how VS Code handles telemetry through Copilot. And so that's a very common question we get is, okay, what data is VS Code tracking when I'm using Copilot with it? That's all open there. We have, facts about what it is. Essentially, it's, going to be tracking your requests, your user settings, things like that. But it's all open, right? We don't want this to be, ooh, I feel kind of weird what's happening. We want it to be open, just like everything else we've been doing on VS Code. So quick plug there for that open source piece. Okay, with that, Alfredo, should we head over to your demo now that we've kind of set the stage of what Copilot is and how we can get started?
Yeah, sounds good. So what exactly is it that we're going to be doing today? Well, and I have this repository open here to show you some of the examples that we're going to be touching on today. But what's the idea? Like, what's the insight on what we're going to be doing today? Well, one of the things, inherent problems of, I would say, large language models in general is that, when you're building a model, a machine learning model, it's learning from previous data, right? So you have all of these examples, and in this case, all of these models that are helping you produce code. Well, it has to know that code from before. It has, during the training process, roughly speaking, in a very generic, very high level way, it's like you see some examples. So if you train a model, 2 + 2 = 4, then it knows that it's 4. There's no computation of like, oh, so let me do some math. Like, similarly, if you say 2 + 3 = 4, the answer that it's going to give you is it's incorrect. It's going to say 4. It's not going to say 5 because there's no reasoning. However, that's only one part of the thing. But there are situations where there's a thing called the cutoff, and the cutoff is a specific date. And this is important because if you are working in an environment where you are like, I'm using SDK 1.0, but 2.0 just came out and it has different syntax, and I'm asking Copilot or whatever model Copilot is using, and it has no idea. And then, sometimes these models like to tell you like, you sure? You asked me about 2.0? Here you go. And it gives you 1.0 examples because of course that's what it knows. It has no idea about this sort of thing. So I put together a couple of examples. This repository has other scenarios, and we're going to explore one of these scenarios. But let's take a look at what we have right here. So I'm going to, it's something that you can explore on your own, and it has some guidelines on how you can navigate these. It doesn't have the actual specific sample I'm gonna put together because I just made it up, and you will see why in a second. Surprise! It's a surprise. It's going to make things a little bit more interesting, I swear. So working with unknown code bases, apply special styles, create custom patterns for your own code. So all of these scenarios are leveraging things and functionality within Visual Studio Code and GitHub Copilot that will allow you to, well, kind of like navigate those sometimes inconvenient things about these models when they work. All right, so working with unknown code bases and new frameworks. So this is exactly where the thing that we're going to tackle today in a very practical way. And we're not going to be reading READMEs and Markdown files, I promise, because probably a lot of folks are going to be like, okay, but where's the code? Where are the changes? Okay, it's coming, I swear. Just a little bit more context. Just like talking to a large language model, we need to provide context. So the idea here is that, well, you're going to have Copilot lacks the context. It might be a library, it might be a framework, it might be that you are working in an environment where there's a library that a coworker has built, and you're like, you need to interface with that library or that API. And it's like, well, Copilot is, forget about the cutoff date. Copilot is never going to learn about that because it's a private thing that was built within the company, and then it doesn't have the access. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to clone it. We're gonna process it. We're gonna gather some insights, and we're gonna apply it to the new repository, to the new thing that we're gonna do. That's the gist of it. Now, this sounds like, yes, this doesn't sound like too good, and it's just kind of like wishy-washy, kind of like, oh, Alfredo said that we could do this and that, and like, show us exactly what this looks like. All right. So my example, to kind of like force this idea, is that I'm going to use a Python framework. It's a web framework. So this framework allows you to, build applications, build APIs, HTTP APIs. Now, for 1 second, if you're not interested in Python, you have no idea, you've never worked in Python before, like it is irrelevant. This could be Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, like it doesn't matter. The example I'm going to show you is kind of like forcing and pushing GitHub Copilot to the limits, because I'm going to force it to work with a framework that does not exist. What I did was I cloned an existing framework, right? And then I did a search and replace for the word of the framework, and I slapped a random name. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you my terminal. Yeah, because so then I can ensure that Copilot doesn't know.
Right, you're trying to lead it astray. So can Copilot find its way back? Yeah.
So this is my terminal, and then I decided to call this Blaster 2000. Copilot has no idea what a Blaster 2000 is. I decided to call it like that. So before I go into Blaster 2000, I've created this awesome API directory. There's nothing in there, and I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code in here. All right. So, and I know this is tiny, so I'm going to zoom in like that. All right. So in here, what I'm going to do is, like you can see, there's no files. There's nothing. And I'm going to I'm going to hide the Explorer. Right?
It's so fun because I feel like it's like being set up like a magic trick. Like,
yeah, I'm doing the setup, right? Like, oh, look at that, and we're gonna get a bunny out of my hat in a second. The bunny is coming. So Olivia mentioned in the beginning the different modes, right? So now, like, I'm gonna be in ask mode because I'm gonna ask questions about. Can you guess what I'm gonna ask? I'm gonna ask about Blaster 2000, and I'm gonna say. This way I can demonstrate that I'm not doing any tricks behind the scenes. Okay, so I'm gonna say I heard Alfredo build this awesome Python HTTP framework called Blaster 2000, and I want to know if you could show me some examples. I hear it is very good. All right, so let's see what we're gonna get. Let me first examine the structure. There's no structure because there are no files. The workspace folder is currently empty. Yeah, you got that right. Let me search for any files, and there's no files. So it's going to be kind of tricky for a Copilot. There are no files. Yeah, that's exactly right. Since I can't find any existing code for a Blaster 2000 framework or workspace, I can show you. Okay, so you have no idea. So can you confirm that you don't know anything about this amazing framework called Blaster 2000? So it's using, yeah, correct. I have no idea. So I'm ensuring that we can make the model do any kind of things because it can tell you, yeah, you're right, and when you're wrong,
you're absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, to be completely clear, because I'm pushing the model to its limits, no general knowledge, no workspace code, and I have no search results. So I actually try to do some search. So I forced the model, I forced GitHub Copilot to just go and figure this one out. And it's like, no, I don't have this. So what we're going to do, the demo today is going to be like, we're going to make this model understand exactly what Blaster 2000 is, provide useful suggestions, and in a way that it's actually usable, right? So I think that's a valid, kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't use GitHub Copilot. It doesn't know about Blaster 2000. Oh, I'm going to make it so. And you can apply, again, forget about that this is Python or Blaster 2000, which I came up with. It doesn't matter. It can be applied to any situation that is similar, where you have like this like, oh, well, it doesn't know about SDK 2.0 or this other library or this thing that my coworker wrote. All right, so we've confirmed. Now let's go back to our let's go back to my terminal. So that's the awesome API directory. I'm going to go back here, and in here I have all of these files. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open up a new instance of this is a new instance. Go away. Yeah, I want to get rid of that. No, I want to. The magician is messing up because it's where is it? It's.
Are you just trying to get a new?
I want to. Yes, I want a new chat. There we go. Go away. Yes, don't save. All right. Jeez, I was showing all of my tricks already. That's not good. All right. Okay. We're gonna get there. It was half of the trick anyway. So the magic happens at the end. There's no bunny in, if you were wondering. All right. So again, what I did was like, this is an actual HTTP framework. It's an actual thing. If you're extremely curious and want to verify that I'm not lying, this framework is called Pecan. It's a very popular framework. So it's meant for building HTTP APIs in Python. All right. So there's a lot of different files. There's it's Python, so it has like the regular Python files. There's nothing really weird about this, and I named it Blaster 2000. So anything. So if I open up any files, let's say for example this one, maybe not that one. Oh, that's a middleware. Let's maybe the core. Well, it doesn't matter. What I wanted to show you is like the import statement. So you will see that it will show Blaster 2000 importing from there, but it has the new style of imports. It doesn't matter. All right. So what is it that we're going to do? Well, now we're going to open up. The chat interface, and I'm not going to select any specific files. Maybe how about? Oh, maybe the README. The README might be good. Like if I open this one, you don't necessarily need to open it, but it has, let's see, Blaster 2000 everywhere. You can, by the way, this won't work. If you try to install it, it doesn't exist. So might be mindful of like what I'm showing right here. That's completely made up. So you don't necessarily need to have like the documentation open, but let's just try it out. And I'm going to be in agent mode now. I want agent mode because I want this thing to span and try to like try to go everywhere it can and like really flex the capabilities of the model. And I'm going to use something that Olivia already used, which is the pound code base. So that specific tool is kind of like saying, hey, agent, just like use everything you can from this project because I'm going to ask you some specific questions. All right. Okay, so I'm in agent mode. And I'm going to say pound code base, right? And I'm going to say, this is kind of like key for what we're trying to do. I'm going to ask the model to build a markdown document that will have clear examples on how to use this framework. But here's the special sauce that is going to go into this prompt. I'm going to ask the model to build it not for me, right? So that's essential. It's not for me. I know this. I know the dude that wrote it. Like he's very intelligent. He's very smart. It's not for me. This is for Copilot itself. So I need to make that clear. Like this thing that you're going to build and all of these examples are so that you can build, like use it yourself later, so you can provide suggestions at a later point. So that's critical, because then I'm ensuring, or trying to ensure, that it will be helpful for them when we're on the other repository that has nothing to provide the suggestions that we want. All right. So let's write this prompt. Now, mind you, we don't know what will happen. Maybe it won't work, but we will try our best. All right.
That's what I love about demos with AI. Let's see.
I need you to write a comprehensive markdown file. Call it Copilot instructions.md, and fill it with useful examples on how to use this framework called Blaster. Can't type today. Blaster 2000, and make sure the examples cover what about routing and API endpoints. Ensure that the output is meant for GitHub Copilot to provide useful suggestions on how to use this framework later. Use as many of these files in the code base as possible. All right, let's see. I mean, I'm really flexing here. Analyze the Blaster 2000 framework. Create a comprehensive markdown file with examples, starting to like read certain things. Something that is interesting is that, I don't know if you're able to catch this, but whenever it's reading, you can see that, oh, I'm reading lines 1 to 200, 1 to 50. That is because sometimes, because context is limited, if you have a developer that has put like 2,000 lines in a file, well, models are going to be like, the 2,000 lines, maybe I shouldn't be reading all. Maybe that's a little bit, it's a little bit too much. So it will try to play smart and figure out how many lines it needs to read, kind of like making it easier on you, right? All right, so now I have a good understanding of the Blaster 2000 framework, which is completely made up, but like it kind of exists in my computer only. It's going to create a comprehensive markdown file with examples for GitHub Copilot. So that's interesting. Like what's happening behind the scenes, it just went out and read a bunch of files. I didn't explicitly tell it what files to read. I just said, I used remember the tool that Olivia used in the beginning, the pound code base. And I said, just go run wild. Like just use everything that you can. And then I even said it in the prompt as well. I said, hey, just try to use as many files as you can so that you can get me some really good examples. In the end, what is it that I want to build? I want to build API routes and endpoints and build my own API using these frameworks. So I need this to be like, really good for that purpose only. Now you can imagine in a framework that is large with many different files, there's all kinds of different examples and all kinds of different things that you might not be interested in. So you have to be, there's a fine line. I don't know, Olivia, like what do you think about this? But like, I think there's a balance of how specific you want to be and how generic you want to be. Sometimes generic is good, but sometimes being a slightly more specific kind of like guides the model a little bit better while we're waiting on this.
Yeah, there's a comment saying that this is a really good prompt, very thorough, and that's pretty much what you're talking about. I think we've been saying, okay, context is really important for getting the response you want from the model, but at the same time, prompting is also very important too. So if you are just sending something super generic, like go do this, right? But if you say like more step by step, break it down a little bit more in prompts. Alfredo specifically wanted to make sure that the output would be easily ingestible and understood by an AI model. So that was really important to include. And so, and the importance of good prompting as well too, right? These are all tips that you'll find really help you get the most out of Copilot.
Yeah. So, sometimes there's a limit to how much stuff you're going to type as well. I mean, if this thing is not working, then you have to try something slightly different. I mean, we can't be writing a novel here, like a whole book to try to make this large language model understand. But it seems to imply that it has created something. So let's check it out. It's called Copilot instructions. Look at that. I'm going to, for a second, just toggle the chat off. And we'll come back. And so we can read. Okay, so it's a Python framework, application structure. That looks kind of correct. Using Blaster class directly, configuration system, basic controller pattern. I think this looks correct. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. Many years ago, I was working with a small engineering group, and we built this framework. So I kind of like know the behind the scenes of the framework. So I'm like looking at these and it's like, yeah, this looks correct. So we're good. We're good. I think this this actually looks URL mapping, custom routes. You can see even has the imports done correctly. Like this is exactly what I was trying to show you a little bit ago, and I couldn't find the imports, but this is exactly correct. Custom route for non-Python. I mean, this is pretty thorough. I mean, it generated how many lines?
700. Whoa.
That's a lot. So we really flexed. Copilot there. All right. So I'm going to say keep. All right. So I'm going to keep. And now what I want to show you, I'm going to save these. What I want to show you is these. All right. So let's see what I'm not going to read verbatim exactly everything that we got, but some of the things that are noteworthy here is that key features covered, core frameworks concepts. That's exactly what I need in order to use these. Controllers and routing, template integration. I had forgotten about the templates, but this thing figured it out. So that's good, because if you're dealing with an API, maybe you want some templating in. Yes. RESTful APIs, generic, and I also forgot about that. Request response handling and security. So, and a few are more. But the cool thing about this is that we really flexed, and we were kind of specific, trying to say, hey, build these things so that you can use it later with good examples. But I wasn't specific in the sense of like only use endpoints and no templates, or just give me information on the templates. But you can 100% do that. And you can, like, if you were like, oh my God, like the templating thing is kind of like tricky, and I want to add more. How do I do this? Well, no problem. You can be specific. It's like just specifically only examples of templating that include this thing or that thing or this feature, these sort of features, so I can use it later. And there you go. And then you can refine. In the case that this wasn't what I wanted, you can also refine on the answer. You know how I press on the keep button? You have keep and undo. You can actually prompt again. It's like, this looks amazing, but can you just like not do the testing part? I could care less about the testing. And we just like, oh yeah, sure. Like, and starts cleaning up and doing everything right.
That's a great call out. Yeah. The iterative nature. And it really is, like when you're, have a pair programmer, or you're working with another teammate, right? And you iterate over, you're like, oh, yep, okay, that was a good implementation, but maybe we can make it a little bit better here, right? It's that same sort of concept. Like, it's an iterative nature in the chat view.
Yeah, I mean, software engineers are very like, when things are working on the first go, it's like, why is this working? This is very suspicious. It shouldn't have worked. This is the first time. Everything should be broken. All right. So what do we have so far? All right. We have this framework that doesn't exist. It exists only on my machine, on my computer. We've asked Copilot to just build this markdown file rich with full of examples. It has almost 800 lines of examples that I think are very good. It even has things to start the development server and try it out. I think it's very good, but we have another kind of like bump in the road. We have like like a stoplight. Like we have an issue and then we need to resolve. This is in that repo, but I'm developing in this other repo. Remember that repo that doesn't have any files whatsoever? And I asked
Right,
Copilot,
we made sure.
yeah,
No
and we
knowledge.
made sure that it has no idea.
We're very clear, to be absolutely clear. I do not know.
So what can we do? Well, we have these Copilot instructions. Now, there's one thing that I didn't tell you. Perhaps you already know about this. I'm sure Olivia knows about this because she's an expert in all of these things related to Copilot and Visual Studio Code. But Copilot instructions is a special file. You don't necessarily need to call it Copilot instructions because I have an empty repository. But if you create a .github directory and inside you put these Copilot instructions.md, it's a special file that by default, Copilot will be like, ooh, let me check if there's a Copilot instructions file, because if there's one, that's probably something that I would read, that I would need to read and then apply some of these things. So say, for example, you want to apply styles, like, oh, well, I don't know, all of my classes, if I'm going to build functions, so my functions of my classes need to be prefixed with Alfredo. Now all of the suggestions will be like, oh, here's a class and it's Alfredo something something class. It's kind of ridiculous, but it is something that that kind of demonstrates why is it useful. So I just decided to call it Copilot instructions because it will make it easier. Actually, I didn't have any other names. My creativity today
naming things is hard. We don't need to reinvent that.
Yeah. All right, so this is in the other repo, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna toggle these and I'm gonna select all of these. I'm gonna select all of the 800 lines, right? And I'm gonna copy them. And now Blaster 2000 is in another window. I'm switching windows. This is the other instance of Visual Studio Code that has nothing. This is where it's like, I have no idea what Blaster 2000 is. So now, you don't necessarily need to do this for the effects of what I'm trying to show you, but to make it easier, sure, let's create the .github directory, okay, and the Copilot instructions.md. I think I always get this wrong. Let me see. Let me see. .github. All right, and in here, I'm gonna say Copilot instructions.md. All right.
So fun little tip there. If you just did the new file and you did .github/Copilot instructions.md, it would automatically create the folder. Yeah.
I thought that would work, but I'm like,
you're like, I don't want to test it right now. Yeah.
If I try it and it doesn't work, you know how many times I've tried certain things that I think are gonna work and then they don't work, and you're like,
this is distracting. Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I was like, if I try that and it actually creates a file with a slash in it, it's just going to be very annoying.
Right.
confusing. Why is it not working? It's there. Well, anyway, we have it. We now have it, and it's in the right place. All right. I'm not gonna generate any code. I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna paste all of that stuff. Right. I'm gonna save it. Let's see. Look at that. All of the 800 lines. All right. And now what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is, this is the magical part, right? So I'm gonna close all of these guys, and I'm gonna say, gonna ask again. Why not? Let's ask nicely. Can you check again if you have any idea about this amazing Blaster 2000 framework? So let's see. Use two references, so I'll show you in a second what those are. You're absolutely right to ask me to check again. I apologize. Yes, this is great, because now I know, it's like, I do actually have information. Oh no, don't tell me so. How is it that you know about this thing? It's indeed a WSGI object dispatching web framework, core concepts, and star scheme. Now, remember, I'm in ask mode, so kind of like what Olivia showed in the beginning, it's not going to generate anything, right? So this is great. It creates URL mappings. It gave me some examples. So now, thank you for prompting me to check again. Blaster 2000 does indeed look like an amazing framework.
Really hyping you up.
we made it happen. We made it happen. All right. So let me show you this thing, which is actually kind of interesting. Sometimes, a while ago when GitHub Copilot was just starting to come out, sometimes folks were like, okay, but how does it know like how do we know what references it's using? Because if it has a gazillion files and it says, well, I'm gonna pick these two here and these two there, and you know what, I didn't know those are the wrong files for what you wanted to ask, so I'm gonna give you some information that is not related, so I'm gonna give you the wrong answer. Sometimes folks are like, get really frustrated. It's like, it's giving me the wrong answers. So here's a trick. You can actually go and click here and say, use these two references. So Copilot instructions, and it seems I left these code generation instructions. It's kind of stale. I think I demoed the something that it used to. It's just a setting that you can also add some customizations as well. So it read these two things by default. I didn't tell it what to read. Granted, the repository is empty except for the one file. So that's how you know. And you can actually click on this and it will just tell you exactly, it will load it, it will bring it into the main view. And now you kind of like understand what's going on. All right, so now that we have the context and now that we know that the model can understand what's going on, why don't we go ahead and try to build something with it? Now, Python can be kind of complicated because it needs several different files and directories and structures, and packaging is always kind of problematic. So I am going to be just like a tiny little bit of laziness, and I'm not going to try to do everything by hand. So I'm going to change to agent mode and really like, hey, go to town, like just have at it, do everything you can, but make it Blaster 2000, all right? So we need to come up with an idea. So let's play pretend that I am going to grab Olivia's project, all right? And I'm going to create an API so that she can perhaps develop an application so that she can use it in her phone or her computer and have like some sort of like a dashboard with all of the foods available for his little kid. So what are some things? Let's see. What are some of the things that we will be interested in, Olivia? Food, days.
Days of the week, ingredients, recipes. So my son is a toddler, so age-appropriate food is also important.
All right. So let's see. Kids age. I'm gonna type here. I'm gonna partially edit this prompt. So I'm adding some information so I don't remember. And then before I'm gonna prefix it with the exact thing we're gonna do. So we have day of the week. We have the type of food, ingredients for the meal, and then we can have a score of how yummy the food is. Then we can, I think that's pretty good. Now, I'm not going to design the RESTful API so that it understands all of the ins and outs. I'm going to be slightly generic, just so that you can see how now it's going to use that context of the Blaster 2000 framework that didn't exist before and build a fully fleshed out API with a framework that doesn't exist. All right. Okay. Oh, no, there we go. I went too far up. Like, that's another trick. Like, if you go too far up, it will work kind of like a shell. So I'm going to hit the up arrow. And look at that. It's kind of like going into my previous run. That's a good one. All right.
That's really good tip.
Because sometimes it's like, oh, man, I really had something written down. Like, what was the other questions? Like, it's right there. Okay. Yeah. All right. So now let's build a useful prompt. All right. I need you to. Oh, we actually big mistake here. I'm no longer want to be in act mode. I want to be in agent mode. And I don't know why I was using Sonnet, but we could try we could try 4.1, which is kind of like the default one, just so that you can see. It's like, oh wait, why was Alfredo using the maybe that's the secret sauce is the model. No, it isn't. No, the full one for everyone. Okay, I'm gonna say Control V. All right, I need you to build a new Python project structure full with packaging and packaging files and directories using the Blaster 2000 project, and create me an HTTP API so that I can provide responses for a kids meal planner I have. Here are the key facts I need to cover. Feel free to implement them as you see fit. I can't type fit. And just make sure these are following Blaster 2000, the Python web framework. All right, let's. I am really pushing this this tool to its limits. I'm like, unknown framework, has never seen it. Now, like, I'm like
here's all these requirements I have based off this thing that literally you only, like, the only context it has is based off this instructions file. Yeah. Like, I just want to emphasize that here.
Yeah, everything on the fly. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it doesn't work. We'll see.
We'll try it out.
I mean, by the way, it's very common when things. Yeah, sure. It's asking me if it wants to create a directory. Just go ahead, go to town. I think this is. I think it should go here. There you go. It was prompting me. It was prompting me. Where do I want to get this thing? It looks like you haven't opened a valid workspace folder in VS Code yet. Please open an empty folder. It is an empty folder. But we can actually, how about we make it easier? Let's create a new directory. Not in here. New folder. How about we call it HTTP API? All right.
And I really like what you're showing right now, Alfredo. Like, I actually like when things kind of go a little bit awry in this, because it shows like what you do, right? You weren't just like, okay, I'm done. It can't even make this. Like, okay, let's work with it, right? Let's give it a folder, and that way we can just keep moving and get what we want.
Yeah, this was kind of odd because like now it decided to put things somewhere else.
I think I've seen that quirk before. Might be worth following.
It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. Like, you know, the important thing here is that, like, if just let's assume for a second that everything that I did was just like working. Like that's not necessarily real, because things are never, you know, perfect in the real world. In the real world, things are like up in flames. People are pushing code on Friday afternoons. Like it's just. It never. This is, you know, this is real, regular, you know, things that happen in engineering where you're building something, and then you have to like navigate, right? Like, oh well, this didn't really work as expected, and we're dealing with something that is non-deterministic. That means that models, in this case, are going to show us different questions. If I close my laptop and tomorrow I do the same demo again, it will have something slightly different. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's up to us to kind of like figure it out. Mm-hmm. All right, so it looks like it did a lot of things. I'm gonna keep the 246 lines it added on 10 files. I'm gonna keep all of them. Meals, get post, meals ID, get put delete. That looks pretty good. I'm guessing it will return JSON, which is you know, type of response, file type. It even added It even added tests, which looks pretty yummy underscore.
10 out of 10.
That looks pretty good. So, pasta, tomato sauce. I mean, sure, it looks. What about this meal? Oh, look at that, in-memory meal data. So like this was interesting because I didn't provide the data, and it just feels like, oh, well, just gonna add some sample data. I mean, this is probably Olivia's kid probably doesn't really. Nobody likes broccoli at that age, so probably not something that is super yummy.
The chicken, though, yeah.
Yeah, I really like broccoli, but I don't know. It depends. It depends how it's prepared.
Yeah.
Oh, it even had 2 kids. Like it's like kid number 1 and kid number 2. Yeah. So I didn't tell it to figure out multiple different kids, but I think this is a good foundation. And as you can see here, I'm very satisfied with how it did this thing. And by the way, this looks correct. Like I'm not gonna run it because it would involve me like doing gymnastics with Python packaging to add something that really doesn't exist, that lives in a different directory. I can, it's just, that the idea today was to show you kind of like this type of magic, right? So I'm gonna close all of these guys because I want to show you actually create. Let's look at the requirements. Oh, look at it. So nice. This brings joy to my day because I told this thing that there's this Blaster 2000 framework, and the requirements that text files, a special file in Python where you put your dependencies in. So it figured out like this is the name of the dependency. I didn't tell it to, and it did. And this is actually correct. This is what I wanted to show you because Python packaging is kind of tricky. It used a set of the pie that it's, oh, look at that. Who's the author? It's me. Like, how does he know? Like, this is just, it's just very funny. All right, HTTP API for kids meal planning using Blaster 2000. All right, so there you go. So this is a pattern that you can use when you have things that, the tooling doesn't know about. This could be either a framework that is, in your work environment, or some coworker wrote, or something that is brand new that Copilot has no idea about. You can actually do this sometimes when there's bigger frameworks or like bigger projects out there. You don't want to necessarily go towards the actual code. Sometimes it's useful if you have the documentation only. Sometimes projects have, documentation repository over here and the actual project over there, and then you can use the documentation to generate, because it has the examples already, so it will already tell you, right? So that's also another alternative that you can do. But hopefully this was useful. Hopefully, Olivia, you found like you can get to use this in the API that you're gonna build tomorrow.
Blaster 2000, bringing it. Pip install.
Yeah.
I think this is great, and you were just touching on something that a little while up, someone had kind of a comment or a question on. They're like, well, why don't you just bring the mystery API into the repo that you're using right now? And to your point, like when you're working on these big systems, like things exist everywhere. Like you can't just bring it all into your single repo. So how can you make it so that Copilot can have access to all those things, all that relevant context? So you don't have just and
provide accurate, useful suggestions. Also, if I bring the whole project into my workspace, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a gazillion files that, I don't need a gazillion files. I have everything that I need in this one Copilot instructions one that is right here. And yes, it has 700 lines, but these are not 700 files. It has exactly what I need. And your needs might be different. Your needs might be like, I already know how to, create a route. Like I need help with testing. It's like, you don't need the whole project, right? You only need the thing that you need. And that's something, especially with models, the more concise and the more focused the thing that you want to do is, like the better responses you're going to get. If it's too big and too wide of a question, then what I tend to say is that generic questions will get you generic answers. And it's kind of tricky. So this is a good way of kind of narrowing down. Of course, if you have a framework or file, or there is just maybe one file or two files, or you have like a single README that will work, like by all means, just put it in there. It's essentially more or less the same pattern. But this is the HTTP framework is kind of like a big one. So this is ensuring that it's covering several different things.
Mm-hmm. I just love this demo because I think the idea of cutoff times that you're talking about, and kind of really understanding context and how's the model even knowing what to generate. How does it know what it knows? Like, this was such a perfect example of how the model thinks and processes. Like, it didn't just all of a sudden go train itself again and
Right.
update its cutoff date, right? Like, you said, oh no, here's the context you need. And I think that that's a really powerful thing to show, both bringing the context that you need, and then also show, if you didn't have that, to your point, you would have gotten a really generic answer, or it wouldn't have even, right at the very start, didn't even know what you were talking about. And so I think that's a really powerful example of just showing, okay, where do these responses come from?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's just a good thing to look at too. If you're getting a response that you don't quite understand, but okay, what is the context it's using then? And just kind of look at it from that side too, because it's to your point, too many contexts, and it's looking at 12 different frameworks and it's getting confused. Does it not have enough context? And so, yeah, I just thought this was the coolest demo. So thank you so much, Alfredo.
Yeah, no problem. I think we could answer a couple of questions if you want. I think we have a few minutes still.
Yes, that sounds great. Okay, so let's see what we have. There's one question more or less about if we use the workspace with both the folders added. So you kind of covered that of, why this model works.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer to why Markdown specifically is optimized for AI use? Like
I mean, some of these models are built using highly proprietary technology in different ways. So, but I can tell you, in my experience with machine learning and building models, usually the way it works is that however you're trained, it's kind of like it's going to be like easier to work with that. So say, for example, if Olivia, you and I are going to create a model, and we're going to train the model using a lot of XML, because I like I like XML. I don't like XML, but let's just pretend I like XML. I think it's pretty terrible, but it doesn't matter. Let's pretend that XML is amazing now. We need to use XML, and when I train this model using XML, guess what? XML is going to be like, oh, let's Copilot instructions that XML. That's what it works like. Markdown, not good. So to me, that's what I think is the reason why. Like it depends. And similarly, if you choose something else that the model is not like, it's like XML, I don't know, I like JSON, and you're blasting here XML, it's not gonna behave as good. It's just, it depends really on how the training was done.
That makes sense. There are a couple more questions. So this is kind of like in that same vein of, okay, why don't we just bring the API over? But is there a way to point your awesome API repo to the Copilot instructions that were created in your other repo in Blaster 2000? That is a pattern you would recommend?
I think there is. I cannot remember where that is. I think it is. But the kind of like, you have to also get creative about these things, because you are potentially creating things that are kind of like a one-off. Like, I just need help building the tests, and so it's not something that you want like, oh, there all of the time. Like, I want this thing. We're building something so that we can it can help us out a little bit. So I don't know if there is. I want to say maybe there is one, but I think it's better to kind of like ad hoc these things and make it better. I believe that whenever you have, like, where's the context? I think in the context, like the settings, I think you can do that, like these generation instructions. Yeah, so there you go. It's experimental, so mind you, your machine might melt down if you try it out, or might not. But a set of instructions that will add it to Copilot requests that generate code, a file in the workspace. So it has to be in the workspace though. So I thought that you could actually point to somewhere else. But if you want to see exactly why I added, I think this was always add a comment generated by Copilot. No, that's not what I added. Let me see. Oh, these are these are things that are added by the Azure extension, which is good. That's the default. But anyway, I would say maybe there is one, but I don't. I think you have to let's be pragmatic about things. Let's just it already works. Maybe tomorrow you don't want these and you change it, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I actually kind of like that we just saw what was in your settings for the code generation instructions too, because again, that's just like another place that you can add that context. And I know that was kind of auto added by the Azure extension, but I think it also suggests things like, always add generated by Copilot to the comments. So we just saw Copilot instructions here with kind of, okay, give the context on what is Blaster 2000. But you mentioned at the very start too that instructions can also be great for like coding styles, or do you always want something to be generated a certain way? And so that's another really, really powerful way to use Copilot instructions. Both
that's right. Like you can you can change your styling, you can change the preference of like libraries to use. For example, you know how many testing libraries are there in Python? There are many. So you might be like, this is the one that I like, not these other ones. Just not suggest me the one that I don't like, suggest me the one that I like, and in this style. And it's like, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start writing tests, and it's like, oh, yeah, of course. And you're like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted, right? Because he knows. So there's all kinds of different things. I kind of like took the easiest route because I know Copilot instructions is read by default. So I'm like, to put it there, I don't have to like tell. It's like, hey, by the way, you need to read this special file that I have over here. It has certain things that might be useful to you because I'm asking questions that you told me you have no idea about, which is very funny.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's really powerful too, right? Like, as you were saying, like it'll always kind of generate things in a certain style. That's really great too. Like you can put these in your team's repo, and then that way everyone's like going to be pushing code that fits kind of a general style guide. And so that's super helpful too. I've found a lot of success with that, just with kind of making sure like those code quality standards that you may have for your team come through. And so then, when you're reviewing PRs and stuff, it's like, okay, you're not spending we don't really like using this syntax. Like, let's do it. You're not spending cycles on that anymore because it's kind of already been put into that format beforehand with those guidelines. So yeah,
that's right. All right. Well, any other questions you think?
There's one other question just about the modes in general. Saying, can you ask it to generate the code without switching to agent mode?
Sure. Do you want to see how? I mean, now that it knows, right? Like the reason I did agent mode was because like multiple different files, multiple different directories, all over the place. Like, so it's just like a lot of different steps, right? So I'm like, just go agent mode. But it can generate code. If you remember when I went, I think here, I don't know if I go, so if I go here all the way to the top, I was asking, it's like, hey, do you know about this framework? I was in ask mode. No, I don't know. And then I got the Copilot instructions. I was still in ask mode. It's like, are you sure? It's like, oh, you're correct. I can confirm that. And then, what did it do? It started. Actually, this is the one. It started actually generating code. So that was in ask mode. So it's generating code, but not slapping the code into actual files, right? So that's important because like it's in ask mode. Like I can decide if it's just like this is informational only, so like I'm good to ignore. So yes, it can generate the code without switching to agent mode. But the other mode that Olivia showed in the beginning, which is the edit mode, I could actually, you can actually go, I'm gonna close all of these guys, close. All right. I can go into SRC and controllers, and I can go to, say, for example, the root one, and then I can actually go here and say class, right? Or expose, sure. And then it's generating stuff that, maps correctly to what I wanted. And if I say class, not root controller, but let's just say baby controller, sure. This is the baby controller. So yes, it can generate, and well, it's on agent mode, but if I change to edit, it would still work very similarly.
And then let's see, there are a couple other questions. Sunny asked, is there a built-in way to protect environment files from agents? There should be the Copilot ignore file that you can use, I believe. And so you can basically just say like whatever files or file path that you want it to ignore.
I think by default it should probably wouldn't go into that EMB.
I think so too, yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things that if you're trying it out and it's not working for you, like the ignore path is what I would suggest.
Mm-hmm. And if it is not behaving how you expect it to, also feel free to always file an issue on VS Code's repo as well.
That's right.
And we can always look into it and see if it's either a feature we need to add or there's a bug or what's going on there. So feel free to always do that. Okay, let's see. Let's end on this one question. So ask, is there any way to define custom instructions for code review?
You mean this is on the GitHub Copilot for in the GitHub user interface, like when you're opening up like the code review, or do you mean more on like I've checked out some code and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to review? Either way, I don't know. I don't think so. I think the safe thing to say is I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know that there's, to your point, Alfredo, if it's like, okay, like for when people are actually doing PR reviews and things like that, like, are there instructions to do there? I don't know. There is Copilot code review, which is kind of its own separate feature. So if you're asking about that, the answer is yes, that there are kind of instructions for that side as well. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're asking about.
Yeah. Well, sounds good. Hopefully this was useful to you all. Thank you so much for putting up with me and
oh my gosh, thank you, Alfredo.
for an hour.
Amazing. I know we'll have you on again in the future. I just think that this is a really cool way to show those best practices and to really emphasize what the idea of with context and how you can make sure you're getting the best answer out of your model. Thank you so much for being here. Sounds great.
Really and thank you all for being here with me and Olivia.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Make sure to check out VS Code Dev Days. See if there is an event near you. We're about halfway through, so check that out. But as Alfredo said, we've loved hanging out with you and getting to connect with you in this virtual event. And we will see you next time.